a pleasure to welcome everyone, especially spending time on a day off, doing Torah, learning together, and certainly on a day like Thanksgiving, when the Umos Olam, the nations of the world, are expressing Hakaras Hatov, it's a little bit of a kitruk, it's a little bit of an attack on Klal Yisrael if we don't do the same. So certainly gathering together, and especially hearing a shiur on the topic of Hakaras Hatov, is certainly a way of harnessing the power that a day like today has, and channeling it towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu and our relationship with Him. It's really a very special opportunity that we have to welcome Rabbi Leff this morning. Rabbi Leff is the Rav of Moshav Matisyahu, and really a tremendous Talmid Chacham and sought-after speaker who has been in our community in the past, and we are very, very happy has returned. He was a Rav before in Miami, so I guess you'll understand. I'm going to apologize and excuse myself in a few moments. I have a flight to Miami that I need to get to for the weekend, but I really want to take the opportunity to be able to be here to welcome Rabbi Leff. I want to begin by thanking the Beis Medrash committee for putting together our legal holiday series in general, and this year in particular. Our sponsors for today, Rani and Rabbi Mendelis and family, in merit of Refuah Shlema, Rabbi Schreier's mother, Gitzel Rivka Bas Esther Shifra, and Gilead Stern, Gilui Nishmas Azriel Ben Eliyahu, whose Yeret Tzayv is on the 7th of Kislev, and to David and Gila Weinstein, who were very instrumental in bringing this morning to fruition. Rabbi Leff has been accompanying Believe Echad La'achdus for 20 years. You have the information on your seats, but it is an organization that really strives to inspire the Chilonim, the non-religious in Eretz Yisrael, and goes from Moshav to Moshav, community to community, in order to try and bring them Torah. It has grown over the course of time. They run 140 shiurim each week in 40 different Moshavim throughout the country. Rabbi Nosson Cohen and his charismatic and devoted Madrechim, Rebbeim, and Rebbitzins are changing the lives of 1,500 people each and every year. The opportunity that the war and the spiritual revival that it has brought and the inspiration is really an opportunity for the organization to continue to grow. And more important than the organization growing is the inspiration that the organization brings to Klal Yisrael for that to grow. And Rabbi Leff is here accompanying the organization. And for more information on how you can support this very worthy cause, there's information on your seats, and you can speak with Rabbi Nosson Cohen or with Shimon Newman. There will be other opportunities you'll see advertised throughout the neighborhood to hear Rabbi Leff over the course of the weekend. But for us, it is really a tremendous kavod as a kehillah to be able to welcome Rabbi Zev Leff Shlita to share with us the Torah. Rabbi Leff.
Okay, good morning. To first of all, start with a Hakaras Hatov, with a thank you to the Rabbi Shalom. Because up until yesterday, when I went to the airport, I was in a wheelchair and walking with a walker, because I fell about a month ago, and Baruch Hashem didn't break anything. I wasn't able to walk. And I thought I would be walking here with a walker. And somehow the Rebbeinu was very good to me. And on the plane already, I began to walk. And I assume it's in your schus. So I appreciate the fact that you gave me that schus to be able to start walking again. I also have another Hakaras Hatov, an unexpected pleasure. My son Yossi came in all the way from Monsey, not only to be here, but to listen to me too. So, very grateful. The topic is Hakaras Hatov, which is normally translated gratitude, paying somebody a debt of gratitude. But that's not what it says. Hakaras Hatov literally means recognizing good. We normally understand also that Hakaras Hatov, gratitude, is a contract that you assume. When someone does something good for you, you owe them a thank you. You owe them gratitude. It's something between man and man. But that doesn't seem to be the case either, because we find that Moshe Rabbeinu had a debt of Hakoras Hatov to an inanimate object. He didn't hit the Nile or the earth of the Mitzrayim, because he owed them a debt of gratitude for how they saved him when he was a baby. So it's not between man and man, between man and inanimate objects. What's the idea of Hakoras Hatov? And there's a Medrash that says, Kol HaKofa B'Tovaso Shalvaso B'Dom Sofo Lichbor B'Kodesh Baruch. Someone who denies gratitude to human beings eventually is not going to believe in God. Paro said, didn't remember what Yosef did for the Egyptian people. Because of that, in the end, he came to deny, Mi Hashem, Asher Eshmu B'Kola, who's this God? So we see that Hakoras Hatov is not merely between man and man. It also has connection and roots between man and God. So what is it? What is exactly gratitude? And what exactly is Hakoras Hatov? The basic idea is that we cannot recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu directly, because we're human beings who live in a physical world, and the Ribono Shel Olam is beyond all physicality. So it's hard to be able to recognize him. How do we recognize the Ribono Shel Olam? Hatov v'hametiv. By recognizing good in the world, we recognize the one who's the source of that good. The entire source of creation was that God wanted to shower his goodness on human beings. And he created the entire universe for the sake of human beings to shower his goodness on us. And that ultimate goodness is not even this world, it's the next world. But here he gave us the ability to earn that and create that goodness, so we don't get it on a silver platter. So we appreciate it. So God is the source of all good. That's how we recognize him. By recognizing the good in the world, when we benefit from things and people in this world. So if we recognize that good, we come to recognize the Ribono Shel Olam. That is the idea of Hatov v'Hametiv. But there are basically 3 steps in being able to take that recognition of good and direct it into our understanding and our appreciation and our recognition of the Ribono Shel Olam. The first one is, most people, unfortunately, think that they came to this world entitled. And if they don't get 100% satisfaction, they have a right to complain. That is not exactly how a person should look at this world. A person came into this world, and the Ribono Shel Olam gave him the most precious gift he could ever have. That's the gift of life. But he never promised anyone anything more than that. So anything more than just being alive, right, is reason to recognize that something good is happening to you. So how do you get to that feeling? To recognize even the smallest good. There's a holiday in the year called Tu B'Av, 15th day of Av. And about that holiday, which is very little known about it, except that they've made it into a St. Valentine's Day in Israel, but it has nothing to do with that. The Mishnah says, "Lo hayu yomim tovim liYisrael kechamishaser ba'av u'kiyom HaKippurim." It's equal in the fact that it is a Yom Tov equal to Yom Kippur, as a day of rejoicing. Tu B'Av. What happened on Tu B'Av? So according to one opinion, which is the predominant opinion in the Gemara, The reason that we celebrate the 15th of Av is that is the day Shenitnu Haruge Beitar B'Kvura. That's the day that they were able to bury the people who were massacred in Beitar. About 70 years after the destruction of the Second Temple, so Bar Kokhba led a revolt against the Romans, and for 2 years he was successful. They already were minting coins with the redemption of Jerusalem. And Bar Kokhba had his last stand in the city of Beitar with hundreds of thousands of Jews, men, women, and children, were massacred by the Romans. Bar Kokhba met his death there. And that was the final nail in the coffin of Gaulis, which we're still in. And the Romans were so cruel that they didn't allow these people to be buried. And they left their bodies unburied, open to the elements, for I think about 3.5 years. This happened on Tisha B'Av, the massacre. 3.5 years later, on Tu B'Av, on the 15th day of Av, 2 miracles happened. One is they were able to get to the bodies and bury them. And the second miracle was when they finally buried these people, they found that their bodies had not decomposed in those entire 3.5 years. Tremendous miracle. So that day, they instituted a yontif, a day of rejoicing. The women used to go out, the unmarried women, to look for shidduchim that day, to dance in the vineyards, just like they did on Yom Kippur. And they instituted a new bracha in benching. Benching would have been shorter, only 3 blessings, now it has 4 blessings. The last bracha of benching, Hatov HaMeitiv, was instituted when they wanted to commemorate the burial of the people of Beitar. So it always bothered me. I mean, look, these people didn't come back to life, and they buried them. Their bodies didn't decompose. The day that you rebury somebody is a day of mourning. If I was there, I would not have instituted a yontif. I would have instituted a fast day. But because 2 miracles happened, I would have said you can eat 5 minutes early. That's what I would have done. What's a big dancing in the new bracha, tova, native? I think the answer is the Chachamim knew that this was the beginning of a long golus. There's not going to be very many things to celebrate and rejoice about. But they wanted us to know that even the smallest good, if you recognize it properly, be happy with that. Don't complain about what you don't have. Be happy with what you do have. And therefore, true, 90% of this day is tragic, but there was a 10% benefit. Recognize that, rejoice, be happy. And that's why they made that the day to make marriages. Because if you're looking for to have all of your needs taken care of perfectly from your spouse, you're never going to have a happy marriage. Nobody's perfect. No one. But if you have the outlook that nothing is coming to me, and whatever I get, I appreciate, then you'll have a very happy marriage. That's the day to make marriage. Same thing goes with Birkas HaMazon, the benching. Most people, a wife slaves in the kitchen, prepares a beautiful meal. The husband comes home and eats, and what does he do? Too salty, not salt enough. How come you didn't make that? This looks a little burnt. Only to complain. If you understand that nothing's coming to you, and you should be happy that you have something to eat, then you can bench really and thank the Rabbi Shalom and thank the person who made that meal for you, and not feel that to complain about what's not there, but to be happy with what is there. So that is the first stage of recognizing good, not to feel entitled, but to recognize every amount of good and benefit that comes to you, feeling that I don't deserve perhaps anything more than being alive. If anything I have, I recognize that that is something that I have to give thanks for and something I have to recognize and have gratitude for. In next week's Sedra, I think we see the same idea. Rachel Imenu is literally dying to have a child. Says, if I don't have a child, it's not worth living. And finally, the Rabbi Shalom grants her wish, and she has a child. And she names him Yosef, for two reasons, says the Torah. One is, Osaf Hashem escher pasi, God took away my shame. The second reason is, Yosef li Hashem ben acher. Give me another one. Both of those reasons are very difficult to understand. First of all, imagine a teenage daughter begging her parents to buy her a new dress. They tell her, you have 15 dresses in the closet. You don't need a new dress. She's begging and begging. And she wakes them up in the middle of the night. Can I please have the dress? In the morning, in the afternoon. Finally, in exasperation, they say, okay, we'll get you the dress. They buy her the dress and they give it to her. And she says, can I have another one? What kind of chaser is that? Right? Say thank you. Tomorrow, start asking for another one. Rachel Imenu has been begging for a child. Finally, the Rabbi Shalom gives her one. She says, can I have another one? Yosef, what kind of? Say thank you. It's a chutzpah. I want another one. And the second reason is even more difficult. Rashi says two explanations what it means that God took away my shame. The first one I understand. Rachel Imenu said, people said, you know why I don't have a child? Because I'm not fit to be the mother of the Jewish people. Now I have a child, that took away my shame. That I understand. But Rashi says another pshat. Rashi says that Rachel said, whenever I broke a dish in the kitchen, so people would blame me for breaking the dish. Now, Baruch Hashem, I have a little kid, I can blame him. He broke the dish. Now that is beyond understanding. First of all, that's a Jewish mother. Jewish mothers blame themselves for everything their children do. They don't blame their children for things that they did. Secondly, it's not going to work. No one's going to believe that a few-day-old child broke the dish. Not going to help till maybe he's 1 or 2 years old. This is what she's thankful for. And this is why Rachel Imenu couldn't live without a child, because she couldn't stand being blamed for breaking dishes in the kitchen. That's it. And now, Baruch Hashem, that shame was taken away from her. So what does it mean? So I think on the first one, which is a different topic, Rachel Imenu wanted a child for the highest spiritual reason. She wanted a child like any mother wants a child, but she wanted it mainly because she wanted to build Klal Yisrael. I'll prove it to you. Because in the next week's Sedra, when Rachel Taka has that second child, and she's dying in childbirth, probably hemorrhaging, and the midwife wants to calm her down. Somebody's losing blood, you want to make sure they don't go into shock. So you calm them down. So if I was a midwife, how would you calm such a woman down? I would tell her, don't worry, you're going to pull through, you're going to dance at this child's chasana, everything's going to be okay, right? Don't go into shock, be calm. That's what I would say. You know what the midwife told her? Al tiri, don't worry, gamzel ben, it's a boy. Now what in the world did it make a difference at that point if it was a boy, a girl, or a giraffe? Lamaisa, right? Tell me I'm going to survive. Don't tell me it's a boy. But the answer is that Rachel Imenu wanted that child because she wanted to bring another Shevet into Klal Yisrael. And if she brought another Shevet, another boy, another one of the tribes to build Klal Yisrael, it was worth dying for. And if it wasn't another boy, another Shevet, nice child, but it wasn't worth living if I didn't bring another Shevet into Klal Yisrael. Rachel Imenu's intention was totally l'shem shamayim, for a very high purpose. When it comes to spiritual things, a person can never be satisfied with a minimum. You always have to want more. Can't be satisfied with what you have. With physical, material things, you should be sameach bechelko. Be happy with what you have. When it comes to spiritual things, you should never be satisfied with what you have. You should always want to grow. On the other hand, the same time that you want to grow and you're not satisfied with what you have spiritually, you should be happy with what you have. There's no contradiction between them. The Vilna Gaon points out that the pasuk says in Mishlei, "Lev chacham liyamino, lev ksiu l'shmolo." A wise person looks to the right, and a fool looks to the left. So the Vilna Gaon explains that to mean the following: when you're reading a sefer, you're learning a sefer in Hebrew. So what you've learned already is to your right. What you've yet to learn is to your left. A foolish person only looks to the left and sees how much there is that he has to learn that he hasn't learned yet, and he gives up, closes the book, I'll never do it. A wise person wants to learn more and more, but every once in a while he looks over to the right to see what he's accomplished, and that gives him the incentive to go on. Yeah, I'm not where I'd like to be. I'm not satisfied. I want to learn more, but I'm happy with what I've accomplished already. I did accomplish something. I know a little bit more than I did yesterday or the day before or whatever. So you have to, at the one hand, never be satisfied with what you've accomplished spiritually, never be satisfied, never be mistapik b'muad. At the same time, you have to be sameach b'chelko. You have to be happy with what you've accomplished, because that gives you the incentive to go on. That was Rachel Imeinu. Rachel Imeinu wanted that child, like we said, for the highest spiritual reasons. And therefore, she said, I need another one. Not happy, I'm not satisfied with one child. I want to bring another Shevet into this world. At the same time, she was happy with the smallest benefit that that child gave her. What was that? Until now, she broke a plate in the kitchen. People said, how come she can't focus and concentrate on what she's doing, breaking plates? But now they have a child, not just going to blame the child, but people will say, you know why she broke the plate? Her mind is not on the kitchen. Her mind's on her baby. Probably the baby was up all last night. She couldn't sleep. So she's thinking about the baby and she can't focus on what she's doing. They give her an excuse for breaking that plate. Not she's going to blame the child for it, but people will say, we understand why she can't focus on that plate, because her mind's on her child. That's the smallest benefit that she accrued from having that child. But I'm happy, even if that was the only benefit, I'm happy with that. I want a lot more, but I'm happy with that. If you understand and recognize even the smallest good, then you'll be a person who recognizes good all the time. But if you're looking only to recognize the big things, there's never going to be anything big enough to be able to recognize, and you'll imagine that everything is coming to you. Another aspect of this, aside from recognizing even small benefits you get, and not thinking that it's all coming to me, I am entitled and deserve it, is another thing. And that is, in life, there's many times that we have benefits and good things that people do for us. And then sometimes even those same people do things that are not so good. There's a halacha in the Torah. If you have an animal that was mauled, you have a sheep that was mauled by a wolf or a lion or whatever, it dug its claws into the sheep and it perforated one of the inside organs, perforated the lung of the sheep. So when you shech that sheep, you find that the lung is perforated, so that animal is called a treifa. That's what real treif means, not an umbrella word. It's a treifa, an animal that's been mauled by a wild animal and renders it a treifa. You can't eat it. The Torah tells you what to do with it. La kelev tashlichim osa. Throw it to the dogs. Let the dog eat it. So you're all familiar with the Medrash. The dogs didn't bark when HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed the Egyptian firstborn, and they're getting their reward. But the Bali Atosa say a different, more simple idea. Why throw it to the dogs? He says every shepherd in his flock have a sheepdog that help him take care of the sheep. And that dog, right, is there to protect the sheep or whatever. Now you have one of those sheep that has been mauled and you can't eat it. So out of gratitude, give it to the dog. Like, let him benefit from his service of protecting the sheep and helping the shepherd all these years. So therefore, la kelef tashlichum, give the treifa to the dog. It's only one problem. You know why you have that sheep that was mauled by the wild animal? Because the dog didn't do his job. And the dog done his job. He was scared away the wolf or whatever. So why are we rewarding the dog for being derelict, right, in his job? Says the Balei Tosfos, because that doesn't erase all the good times that he did. Every day he protected the sheep, and so one time he failed. So because one time he failed, that erases your gratitude for all the times that he was successful. Don't treat a dog like that. Think about it. How do we treat other people? Sometimes you have a friend that's done you tremendously good things over years, and then they do something not nice. How do we usually approach them? We'll erase them from our book. I don't want to speak to you anymore. I don't want you to know anymore. That one bad thing that they did erases all the good things they did in the past. Says the Balei Tosfos, you don't treat a dog like that. You should treat another human being like that. So it's not just recognize the good that you get on a steady basis, but even if the good was in the past, and now somebody did something not so good, don't erase them. Don't forget about that good that came in the past. So that is the basis also of honoring a parent. You normally think that you honor your parents because all the good things they did for you when bringing you up. They fed you, they clothed you, they gave you a place to live, they gave you an education. So you owe them a debt of gratitude. Kibud ava'im. Say the Mefarshim, not true. Because the Torah goes out of its way to tell us where the mitzvah of honoring a parent was formulated, where did the Rabbanim Shalom give it? Remember where God gave you that mitzvah. Where was that in the desert? The parents of the children in the desert did not feed their children. God fed them directly with mom. They didn't house their children because God made sukkahs for us. You didn't have to pay rent. You didn't have to pay a mortgage. So they didn't provide that for their children. They didn't clothe their children. Children were basically the clothing that they had grew with them. Never needed them to go to the dry cleaners. So they didn't feed them. They didn't house them. They didn't clothe them. And not only that, they didn't have to educate them either. Everybody was learning directly from Moshe Rabbeinu, directly. No need to have parents or teachers. And not only that, these parents didn't benefit their children anything. They harmed them. Because of their sins, the children had to wander in the desert for 40 years. So here you have parents who didn't benefit their children, not physically, materially, educationally, and harmed them. And that's what the Torah said, honor your parents. So why? If it's not for gratitude for all the good things your parents did, then why do you have to honor them? The answer is, if your parents gave you nothing, they gave you the most important thing that you have, your life. If you appreciate life, you appreciate your parents. And that's why the reward for honoring a parent is long life. If you appreciate it, you get more of it. If you don't appreciate it, why should God give you more of something you don't appreciate? So that also is the foundation of gratitude. Yeah, but not gratitude for all the extras that you get. Have gratitude for the basic. Be happy that you're alive. That in itself is a tremendous, tremendous gift. That is also the concept of Birkas Hamazon, of benching. If somebody had asked me to formulate a thank you to God for the meal I just ate, just have a nice sandwich or whatever, I have to bench. So I would have formulated one blessing. God, the food was great. I really appreciate the fact that you gave me to eat. Thank you. See you next meal. That would be my Birkas Hamazon. And that's only the first bracha. There's another bracha that we have to mention, Torah and the mitzvahs and Yitzias Mitzrayim, right? And Bris. And then there's another bracha. We have to mention the Beis Hamikdash and Malchus Beis David. Why do I have to go through a refresher course of Jewish history just because I ate a sandwich? Thank you for the sandwich and finish. Why all these extra things? Well, the answer is, if you want to really have gratitude and thanks, you have to appreciate how important the thing is that you got. If the thing is not so important, then it's not so important to be thankful for. If the thing is very important, then there's something to be thankful for. We're thanking the Rabbi Shalom for giving us the ability to eat and promote our life. If life is important, then that thank you has to be very, very strong. If life isn't all that important altogether, so what am I thanking for? You gave me a few more calories, a few more hours of life. Fine, thank you. A simple thank you is sufficient. But if life is important, you know what life is? Not just this world. It's eternity. It's Bris and Torah and Eretz Yisrael and Yerushalayim and Beis Hamikdash and Malchus Beis David. That's what life is. So life is pretty important. If that's the case, I really owe the Rabbi Shalom thank you for giving me a few more calories and extending my life. So it's not just to be thankful for even the small things in life, but to be able to be thankful even when those small things have other things counteracting them, and even to understand how important those small things are. So that is a second idea in the process of Hakaras HaTov. And then there's a third thing, and that is to recognize that good, no matter what it is not limited to this world. But real good is something that is eternal. That's what the word Tov means. Tov means good, but it means something else also. And only the by the way means good. We're all familiar in the beginning of the Torah, it says that God created fish. And then it says, Vayar Elokim ki tov. He saw it was good. So when you're in first grade, you're allowed to understand that simply. That God said, let there be fish. And then he looked at it and said, looks bad, looks pretty good, looks like fish. Did a good job, pat himself on the back. Vayar Elokim ki tov. That's absurd. God knew exactly what he was creating. He didn't have to look at it and see, hey, it came out pretty good. Looks like fish. What do you mean by Yar Elokim ki tov? Says the Ramban, what it really means is the following. God brings things into creation by willing them into creation, by speaking them into creation. By Yomer Elokim, God said, he willed it, and it appeared. But now what gives it the ability to continue to exist? Yar Elokim, when God looks at it, that gives it the ability to continue to exist. Yar Elokim, and then ki tov. It's something that now has the ability to continue to exist. The word tov means something eternal. Because the more that it has the ability to exist, the better it is. That's what tov is. Give you one more proof to that, aside from Hodu Hashem ki tov, ki li'olam chasdo. Because the Rebbeinu Shalom's kindness is eternal. That's tov. That's really good. It's something substantial. The more substantial it is, the more good it is. I'm bringing another proof that that's what it means. In the beginning of Sefer Shmos, we find this idea also. And there it's pretty clear what it means. Moshe Rabbeinu's mother, Yocheved, has this baby, and she sees Vatireu Kitov. She saw he was good, and therefore she hid him for 3 months from the Egyptians. And if you think about that, that makes absolutely no sense. Why? Why did she hide him from the Egyptians? Because if they found him, they would drown him. Okay, simply, she's saving his life. Okay. So what does it mean, and what does it have anything to do with the fact he was a good little boy? Here's a mother, she looks and sees, this kid's a good little kid, he's not cranky, so let's save him from the Egyptian drowning him. But if she didn't, she was a little boy, oh, there's a cranky little kid, drown him. But what's that have to do with Vatireu Kitov? What in the world does that have to do with the fact she saw he was good, and therefore she hid him? And if he wasn't good, she wouldn't hide him? Says the Rashbam, at least the way I understand it, Moshe Rabbeinu was born 3 months premature. In those days, for sure, babies like that didn't have a good chance of survival. If you hid a child and were caught, the whole family was put to death. Just like by the Nazis. So she was putting her whole family in danger to save this child. Now, if the child didn't have a good chance of survival, she'd have no right to put the family in danger for the survival of a child who anyway wasn't going to survive. But B'tireu Kitov, she saw he was viable, that he wasn't going to die. She saw that even though he was 3 months premature, he was already a viable child, and therefore it was worth taking the risk of saving this child, even though it put the family in danger. But here was a for sure danger, and here was only a possible danger. Better to save this child. That's what it means, Kitov. So Hakaras Hatov means not only recognizing the small goods and understanding how important they are, understanding that those small good can have an effect on eternity. And they're not just good in this world, but they have applications and implications for eternal good. And then there's one last stage of Hakaras Hatov leading you to God. We said the purpose of Hakaras Hatov is not so much giving gratitude to someone, but recognizing good. Because if you recognize good, that's how you recognize the Rabbi Shalom. Because the Rabbi Shalom is the source of good. So first is recognize good, even the smallest good. But then you have to relate it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Most people, when they get something good from someone else or in general, so they attribute it to the final cause. But you have to trace it back to the original cause. Give an example. A baby drinks milk from a baby bottle. So the baby says, I really owe this bottle a Hakaras Hatov. Gives me milk every day. That's when he's a little baby. One day he gets a little bit older and he sees the mother takes the milk out of the milk carton from the refrigerator. She says, wow, I've been giving my gratitude to the wrong thing. Bottles don't create milk. Milk bottles create milk. From now on, I'm thanking the milk bottle. And she realizes that she took the milk bottle out of the refrigerator. Refrigerators create milk. From now on, my thank you goes to the refrigerator. He gets a little bit older, take him out to a farm, and he sees the milk comes from a cow. Boy, he might make a mistake. I've been thanking refrigerators and bottles. You have to thank cows. That's where the milk comes from. Then realizes the cow eats grass. Well, you have to thank the grass. Finally, you come back to the first source and the cause of everything, that's the Rabbi Shalom. If you trace things back to their source, you'll trace it back to the Rabbi Shalom. So if you recognize good, you don't take things for granted, and you recognize that even the smallest good can have eternal implications, and you really appreciate that good, then trace it back to its source. And the source always is the Rabbi Shalom. So that is, I think, what the Gemara means when it says that every day we say Ashrei, Tehillah L'David, right? 3 times a day. The Gemara says, what's so special about Ashrei? 2 things. One is it's in the form of the Aleph Beis, and secondly, it has the pasuk Poseach es Yadecha u'Mashbi'a lechol chai razon. I think what it means is that because it's the Aleph Beis, if you trace the Aleph Beis back, one thing after another, you'll come back to the Aleph, to the Rabbi Shalom. And if you appreciate Poseach es Yadecha u'Mashbi'a lechol chai razon, whatever needs you have are being taken care of in any way, and you trace that all back to the Rabbanu Shalom, then you're in this world fulfilling what you have to do to recognize God. That's the way that we recognize the Rabbanu Shalom. Hatov v'hametiv. From the good that he does, you can recognize the source of that good. That is the purpose. And therefore, thanksgiving maybe shouldn't be called thanksgiving, because it's not so much the thanks that you give someone else, because Moshe Rabbeinu gave thanks to the Nile and to the earth, inanimate objects. It's not so much what you're giving. Could be it's thanks, pondering, and thinking. How you're thinking about the thanks that you owe in this world and tracing it back to the Rabbanu Shalom. So on a day, and the Rav said before that the Goyim are thanking and appreciating the fact that they benefited in being able to start this country through difficult times, right? And to be able to have a turkey dinner with the Indians, right? That didn't erase all the trials and tribulations that those pilgrims had. But they recognized the fact that the Rabbanu Shalom was good for them. It was good to them. So it behooves us to at least take that kind of gratitude and to extend it even further, and to extend it not just on one day of the year, but to extend it every single day of the year, and not just for one part of the day, but for day after day after day. And that will make us what we're supposed to be, the lighthouse and the inspiration for the whole world, so we can take the cue from them to be able to inspire them even more to understand what thanks really means, not just thanksgiving, but thanks that breeds to thinking and pondering and coming with a closer relationship with the Rabbanu Shalom. In keeping with that, I think you all have to show a Hakaras Hatov to Rabbi Cohn for having an organization that I'm familiar with personally. I don't do too much for the organization, but I like to go on other people's coattails. And supporting the Leff Echad is a tremendous chus, because the good that they do in bringing children of grandchildren of parents who originally in Eretz Yisrael were from the Eidos HaMizrach, from people, but the tradition got lost for 2-3 generations. And they're bringing these people back, not just the children, but children, the Heishiv Levavos Abonim V'Leibonim Alavosa. The children bring their parents back. And they're making an impact all over Eretz Yisrael, all around Beit Shemesh and all other areas in Eretz Yisrael. I met with the mentors of who give these shiurim, very, very qualified young men and women. And they're doing a tremendous job. If you want to attach yourself to that zechus, all you have to do is give some money and you have an easy time. They're doing all the hard work and you have an easy time just opening your wallet a little bit and you get a tremendous zechus. So I do that. And all I have to do is get up here and speak, and I get the schus of all this Torah that they're spreading. I don't have to do too much work. So take the cue and do the same thing. And the Mir Hashem will see that all of these people, the Shavu, Bonim, the Gvula, they'll come back to their heritage. And Mir Hashem, and that's course, all of us will come back to Eretz Yisrael, the diaspora of Tzedek and Gerus.
Our gratitude, Rabbi Ben, obviously, and our gratitude to you for coming here and helping others to also realize gratitude for the